Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome on Tunis International Radio. You are listening right now to the daily edition of English language program presented by Huda bin Sheikh on air in Studio 1 with my colleague Faisal Halili for the technical engineering and the wonderful Reem for the web. Today we are going to speak about an interesting event, and I would like my guest to thank my guest, Bilal Meki, in charge of communication in La Rue Association. La Rue is an association that is endeavoring to promote culture in all its diverse aspects, and they are also all the time organizing residencies in order to encourage youth to join in the wonderful experiences. Hi Bilal, how are you?
Hi Hudayr, how are you? Fine.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. So you are preparing for quite an interesting event, or let's say workshop, entitled Contre-musée sur les libertés individuelles. So can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the invitation. Once more, always happy to be part of you and among you and also talk about La Rue's project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed, it's more of a working process than a workshop. The title, at least the actual title, is Counter-Museum of Individual Liberties.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process that will be at some point open to the public in a few weeks, next October, from the 4th to the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
We will talk maybe a little bit about it, but it's a process that started a few months ago, like 6 months ago, and at the beginning it was an invitation from l'Association de défense des libertés individuelles,
Mm-hmm.
which approached La Rue in order to also develop a project around their 10 years of work and archives,
Mm-hmm.
celebrating their 10th anniversary. And those talks resulted in several invitations from different artists from Tunisia, but also abroad. Thomas Belling, who is an artist scenographer, Dora Benalia, who is a university researcher in social psychology, Boshra Triki, activist and feminist, and also Essia Jaibi, who comes from theater discipline. And this group evolved around a reflection, also how to develop this concept of counter museum around and question the notion of individual liberty. So the idea is to question what does it mean for us and for everyone to be free to decide over our own body. What if we were to build a museum of liberty? What would it look like? Who would compose its collection? What would you dispose if you were display if you were appointed the director of this museum?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the idea is to play with the vocab of the museological vocab. More concretely, it will be installations, performances, talks as well around those thematics.
Mm-hmm.
At least for next October, because this project is meant to this working process is meant to continue throughout several years, 2 or 3 years, we hope. And this group, who is for now thinking this working process and participating to it, is called Citizens Museologists. So we try to invent notions and titles around it, but the idea is that this group would evolve in the future with new members, new energies, but some changes as well. So it's more of a working process.
more of a working process, and it seems that some aspects of culture are going to be there. The question is about the museum. I mean, here we don't understand what does it mean, this idea that you are, this connotation of museum in this working process.
Yeah, I mean, the aim was to question what a museum is in our imagination. In our imagination, we went through several discussions. We discussed with different groups, different people. We went to classical museum, or I mean, the traditional concept of museum with different groups, youngsters, but also other open air museums throughout Tunisia, and we tried also to understand what people imagined when we talked about a museum, and the notion itself changed and differs from one territory to the other. Some of them said, okay, it's a place where you need to go one time in your life, and then you don't need to go back to, because everything is everything is frozen. There's nothing new. Others would say, okay, for us it's kind of a refrigerator with beverages that you cannot touch and you cannot. And others would say, okay, it's a dead place. So how the notion of individual liberties that refers also to liberty of movement, of thinking, of expression, and how to talk about them throughout this vocab of museum. Because in our reflections as well, for us, a museum can be houses, streets, dumping grounds, gardens, etc. Those spaces of memory that each of us develop.
Okay, so we understand the idea. So can you explain for us what is this working process? Because I've seen here posted that there was a call for participation, and the deadline was on the 13th, and it is mainly intended to journalists.
Well, at some point, because we talked about the citizen museologists, indeed, this group, and this group, as I explained, is composed from different artists and researchers and citizens in general from different disciplines. At some point, they suggested to go through a working process in the form of atelier and workshops.
Yeah.
And each one of them would tackle an issue that is that he cherished, or something that he wished to develop or to explore or to question. And there were 5 different ateliers for these 5 different actual members of the Citizen Museologist Collective. One with agricultural women in the board in the region of Gascogne. There's this call you were referring to journalists and caricaturists as well. So each of each of the members of the artists composing this group of museologists developed his own wishes and his own concept of atelier. The idea is to enrich the process, the reflection process, and the process of questioning what a museum would be, and explore different thematics.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so here you are including different categories of participants, journalists, citizens, you told me, artists, but also cartoonists and all media stakeholders.
Yeah, for this particular workshops, because it's one of 5 workshops that has been developed, and this one you're referring to is targeted to journalists, and caricaturists, conducted by Essia Jarabi in collaboration with Sarah Ben Ali, who is an independent journalist. And this workshop evolves around the thematic of récit narratif, récit médiatique et fiction narrative. And the idea is to question the process, together the process, how the information is processed and is processed by media, but by media in the large sense of the term. This is why when we talk about journalists, we are referring to people working with a podcast discipline, or people, caricaturists as well, because they also dealing and questioning news and the context, political, social, economic context of the country. Photographers as well, written press, the web as well. This is
very rich one.
Yeah, it's quite a challenging process, because the idea is really to, there's no particular goal, but the idea is to include and to make people participate in a reflection process.
In a reflection, yes, and that's quite enriching. This is a kind of exchange that can happen. So you told me that this working process is going to extend over 2 years, and you are going to organize a series of workshops on different themes each time.
The project, in the Museum of Individual Liberties, is a project that is meant to be developed throughout the years. But these workshops we were talking about are part of this process, and they have been taking place in the past few weeks. Now we are preparing a public moment where we will invite the audience to be present at 32 bis, which is the place that will host this first public presentation that will take the form of installation, performances, debates. We will probably invite also the audience to bring their own items or objects that recalls or that refers, according to them, to the theme of individual liberties as well.
Great. So I suppose here you are going to give feedback for those who are not part in this, who are not participants. So for those who are really interested to have an idea, I suppose you are going to post some of the videos or some news on your Facebook page on the social network.
Probably we'll maybe think about it with a group. What will be clear is that we will have these installations in this particular space, this new space of the 32 bis in Tunis, from October 4th to October 7th.
October the 4th till October the 7th. This is the date that dear listeners have to take note of, because it's important to have an idea about what's going on. We need to introspect into some of the ideas and concepts that we have. The museum, what does it represent, why and why not? So here we have to think about lots of things. So if you want to have an idea about it, just go at the 32 bis, as here our guest said. Apart from that, La Rue is very, very active, I notice, these times, and you are preparing for a quite rich program. So can you give us very quickly some highlights, some important events that you are working on for the upcoming period?
Yeah, of course. We are developing different projects within different programs. I can talk about the Dream Performative Digital World, and this performance room where we invite, for a period of 5 days, creation, an artist to develop a work in a limited time frame. Next Rendezvous will be with Mohamed Aitawi, who's a young, promising choreographer. He's developing a work called En Ligne, a work en ligne but called Lorsque j'étais une étoile. Mohamed will present his work on September 13th. It will be on the Facebook page of La Rue. We are also developing a civic space rendezvous with, we are defining the theme, but it will be a discussion, a debate online around actuality, social and political actuality in Tunisia. We are also having a workshop with Thomas Goumenides, who's a French designer who's working in Tunisia with a group of 4 youngsters from the Medina. Maybe I can tell their names. Akram Mahzoubi, we have Raid Flishi, Youssef Mishishi, and Hatem Fethi. And these people are developing a collaborative design workshop in La Medina of Tunis. They're working on how to recycle, but also not only recycling, but mainly upgrading garbages, waste and material that they collect from the Medina, and to turn them into artistic objects. So we are talking here about the whole process of reworking and reworking the material
and reusing them in a different way.
Yeah, really upgrading them. It's the term that the group is using. This atelier is called Rascal. They have been working from June 15th, last June 15th, and they will have a series of open public moments, 2 weekends, from the weekend of the 9th and 10th of October, and the second weekend will be on the 16th and 17th of October.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bilal Makki from La Rue Association. Quite an interesting organism that is working in promoting culture and promoting the spirit of innovation. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. We continue with the rhythm right now.
Tengo en una libreta tantas canciones.